Anytime, any day. Why not right now? Stop looking up to your boss and start being your own boss. Don't work for paychecks. Work for dreams with no regrets. This is Cracking the Entrepreneur Code. If you have the passion, we'll create the blueprint. Now, your host. You know him from his 7 tips to build the business you always wanted, and now you're about to hear a lot more. Jack H.M. Wong.
Welcome to another episode of Cracking the Entrepreneur Code podcast show. I'm your host, Jack Wong. So in this episode, I would like to start and take into account most people like myself back 60 years ago when I was in the shoes of thinking whether I should leave the corporate world. And you know the story. I have left the corporate world. Very often in the traditional school, we have been told that we cannot make any mistakes because when we make mistakes, we'll have punishment. Remember in your family time, when you make mistake at home, your parents will punish you. When you are making mistakes in school, your teachers will punish you. And in university studies, which is what I'm doing, I'm actually a faculty member of one of the universities in Singapore. When students make mistakes, it's very difficult for me not to penalize the students because this is how the school education system is all about. Mistakes aren't acceptable. So in our traditional schooling system, people have been conditioned to follow instructions. And that's why many people I know of till now, even I'm talking about myself back then. When I wasn't happy with one job, what do I do then? It's very simple. I'll move on to another job. And as the story goes, some people will just be going round and round within the employment quadrant. If you understand Robert Kiyosaki's cashflow quadrant, if you don't, just visit or just research some of Robert Kiyosaki's stuff on cashflow quadrant and you understand what I'm talking about. So typically, people in this quadrant, they will only know one thing, that is moving around the job. So I remember when I was not happy with my first job, that was many years ago, back in 2003. Eventually, I left the firm in 2004, and that was my first job, which I have served the firm for 10 years and 3 months. Interestingly, at that time, I was thinking only one thing. I was moving to another job. So I ended up with a law firm, and I served this law firm for 5.5 years. And the interesting story is that I didn't even think about moving to the entrepreneurial world at all. That was like unknown territory because in my entrepreneurship principle, typically I would tell my clients, you don't know what you don't know. So at that point in time, I didn't know what it was about in terms of entrepreneurship. So anyway, it's because somehow of some trainings that I have gone through, some personal development trainings that I have gone through in 2011, I knew that, finally there's such a thing called entrepreneurship. So I actually make a bold decision to leave the corporate world, which I have spent 17 years of my time moving to this totally unfamiliar, unknown territory. At that point in time, I didn't know anything about how to run a business. In fact, I had zero planning as to what I'm supposed to do as soon as I leave the corporate world. So I'm coming back to this episode. The reason why I'm so keen to talk about this in this episode is you shouldn't make the mistake. If you are thinking about leaving the corporate world, which was my situation then, and you want to really explore this thing about entrepreneurship, please listen carefully because in the next few minutes, I'm going to explain some of the things that I have done, which is what I call mistakes. And mistakes are good because now you're learning from my mistakes. So I'm going to give you some bullet points. In fact, I'm going to give you 5 bullet points so that you know that by following these steps, you will actually be able to avoid the mistakes that I have made. Number 1, That is to have a plan. This word PLAN, I think it is very self-explanatory. Because if you do not have a plan, you will plan to fail. When you plan to fail, it's not because you do not have the time to repeat or to redo something, because time is an irreplaceable resource. So if you spend your time or if you waste your time, it is kind of not replaceable. So I do not want you to waste your time. So before you venture out, explore the entrepreneurial world, it is very important for you to plan what you are about to do. As soon as you step out of the corporate world, you need to know your first month what you are planning to do, second month what you are planning to do, in the next 6 months what you are planning to do. I'm not asking you to plan like 5 years down the road, just the first 6 months what you are planning to do. My lessons that I've learned is I actually spent 3 months of my first 3 months in the entrepreneurial world sitting in front of the computer and thinking. I was wasting 3 months of my time. So plan for it. Number 2, ask yourself this question: what are you good at? Now, I'm going to use this question, what are you good at, to explain later what exactly you should do. Very often, you might have read some books, and these books are basically talking about you must have your passion before you can start a business. From my experience, and from the experience of other people I work with, I realized that some people got stuck because they had to identify their passion before they can start a business. So logically speaking, if you can't find your passion, obviously you can't start your business. So yes, before you step out, you have a plan, but at the same time, it is important to ask yourself, what are you good at? Because in the moment I'm going to explain, passion is something that is within you already since you were born. You just need to understand how to uncover it. And sometimes by knowing what you're good at is actually an indirect hint as to your passion. So this is a very amazing thing. Number 3, do not sit down and do not sit down and do anything. Do nothing. So what do I mean by that? So if you do not know what you are supposed to do, go out, find other people who are in business, have a word with them, have a conversation with them, and ask them questions. Because remember, 2 minutes ago, I said, we don't know what we don't know. So if you are asking your friends who are employees about how to start a business, that is not very good advice, because Robert Kiyosaki said, you don't ask any unqualified people for advice. So if you are asking people for advice on how to start a business, how to create businesses, it is important for you to ask people who are already in business, so that they are the ones who are able to help you. Okay, so do not sit down and do nothing. Go out and find other people, because it is important. Number 4, get yourself personal development training. Cracking the Entrepreneurial Podcast has the mission about looking at both business development and personal development. Because as you're sitting down at your computer like myself, I fortunately had personal development training then. Imagine I didn't have such privilege. My little voice, the voice that is in between my ears, will shoot me down every single day, saying that, gee, you see, that's the problem. That's why you shouldn't have left your job. That's the reason why you should go back to the corporate world and find another job, because I teach people another entrepreneurial principle. When you decide to step out of this corporate world and become a business owner, entrepreneur, you shouldn't have ever thought about going back to the corporate world. And therefore, you can't give up. And you can't give up. It's not you shouldn't give up, you can't give up. If you are thinking about giving up, you might as well stay with your job or go and remain in the employment quadrant. There's no point of stepping out of this total unfamiliar territory and say, okay, if it doesn't work out, never mind, I can go back. It is kind of like trying to succeed. TRY, the word that I do not like to use in personal development, basically suggests that it's okay to fail, because if it doesn't work out, never mind, I can go back to the original position. So in my personal development journey, I never ever use the word TRY. As you can see, I do not pronounce the word. I'm only spelling out the word as TRY. Okay, what's the final one? The final one is, apart from asking people who are already in business, you should also ask people to mentor you, to coach you. The reason why coaching and mentorships are so important is because if you are asking people how to start a business, you get what we call the advice. However, this advice may not last long, because nobody is going to hold you accountable. Now, some people might say, you know what, I'm a very self-disciplinary person, so I can coach myself, I can hold myself accountable. Well, I haven't known anybody in my life who can do that, despite the fact that someone is super highly disciplined person. So you know what, if you need someone to hold your hand, to make sure you said what you do will be achieved, will be actually executed, go find a coach or mentor. Better still, find someone who is relentless and get the coach to hold you accountable. Because every single step you make, every single move that you make will give you success, a taste of success in your business. If you do nothing in your business, what do you expect then? That's right, nothing. So I want you to realize that this journey is a process. As you move along each step, each move, every single day, you are a successful entrepreneur. But in order for you to make your move that you are required to get somebody to hold you accountable. So I hope that these 5 steps are simple enough. Yes, I know it's simple enough. At the same time, in practical world, it might not be easy. But these 5 steps will allow you to make the move you need to make, take the step that you are required, so that you have a taste of success in your entrepreneurship journey. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And once again, thank you for listening. If you need any help from me, or you feel that this episode is useful for anyone you loved, share this with them. Let them know. Subscribe to my podcast, because I have a lot of my experience, my lesson, my stories in my entrepreneurial world, which I can't wait to share with you. So once again, thank you for your support and best wishes. Jack Wong here. I will see you in the next episode of the Cracking the Entrepreneur Code podcast show. Bye.
To continue cracking the entrepreneur code, subscribe for more episodes and download the Amazon bestseller, Cracking the Entrepreneur Code, 7 Tips to Build the Business You Always Wanted at crackingentrepreneur.com. Learn more about author and host Jack H.M. Wong and book your 30-minute discovery session to overcome any professional challenge at jackhmwong.com/apply.